a couple of techniques to utilize when you've been unsuccessful in keeping your elbows back and your opponent has your elbow position. And when we talk about defense, we'll talk about the importance of that. But what we're going to do now is say that Colby here, let's keep you in this position, has my elbow. In other words, my elbow is not out here so much now. Colby has grabbed it and it's not back into my side, but it's forward and somewhat even under Colby's body at this point. Now, that makes it difficult for me because I'm very vulnerable to a drag here. Or he kind of peeks out his head like that. Now, what option do I have? One, it's crucial that even when he has this, I really concentrate on keeping his head down. That's crucial. I want to keep my body right over his head here. Notice, though, the deeper he has this arm, what is it close to? It's close to here. So, one option is a knee tap. As he's pulling it through, as he's tugging my arm through, what am I doing? I'm pulling it back, trying to prevent him from getting a good grip. As he pulls it through, I continue to defend against it, and then all of a sudden, I'm going to let it through. So I'm going to help him. So like a slingshot, it's going to go through. And momentum, because he's tugging, is going to result in his weight again going onto that far leg as I drive through. So I'm pulling back, he's pulling forward, we're fighting here. All of a sudden, I'm going to jam it through. I'm going to use his power and his force to throw my shoulder through. We're in here. I'm fighting. I'm pulling this back. He's tugging hard. He's tugging. And so what I'm going to do, I'm just going to drive this through. And just like before, I keep my power on top of him. And I'm going to drive through him here. Just going to drive right through him. The more he pulls it through, the more I resist. Then I'm going to power it through really quick. Another option. When your opponent has got your arm deep here, you'll notice at this point, there's no way I can get that angle that I like to get on this side because he's got my shoulder so deep and my arm so deep, I just can't get to that position. So reality is that I either want to try this, I can be trying to retreat a little bit in some jerky type motions to try to get my arm through and regain my position. But if I can't, what I'm going to do is I'm pushing into him, I'm going to shuck him by, again, I don't want to be on my knee, I want to be off my knee because I want him carrying my weight. I'm very concerned about a drag type position here. I keep my elbow back as best I can even though he's pulling it forward. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to shuck. How not to shuck? How not to shuck is to throw somebody by and lose contact with them, then speedily try to overtake them either by spinning behind or driving through them. That's how not to do it. If I let go of Colby, he's going to have time to adjust his position. However, if I maintain contact the whole time, so if I'm pushing into him, he's pushing into me, he's trying to drag behind, so he's really trying to get that angle, I'm going to shuck. Now watch when I shuck, my weight's on him the whole time. I did that slowly, and I want to do it more quickly when I'm actually doing it, but for demonstration purposes, notice my body weight was on Colby the whole time. And if he tries at that moment to drag through, I come up top and I continue. Notice as he drags, there's a tendency for his weight to go somewhat forward, especially past his center of balance here, to where he's going to tend to want to come down. At that point, I keep the weight on him and I squish him down to the mat. So I'm in this position, he's dragging, especially if I really feel like I'm losing it, drag through. I come through. Now, as I shuck, it's with my shoulder. I'm not trying to use my arm and keep my arm stiff. My arm is fairly loose. It's my shoulder that's shucking through. So as he's trying to drag me and I shuck through, I want you to notice as I shuck through, and my arm came on top, my body, especially this part of my chest, remains on top of Colby the whole time. I bring my arm over him, my body maintains contact the whole time, and I squish him down. I think that's a useful move. Not a move I'm planning for because it's a move I'm responding to my opponent who's beat my shoulder position, basically. But as long as I keep and maintain contact and weight on him throughout the course of that movement, I'm usually in pretty good shape. More times than not, people lose that because they just shuck and they've lost contact with their opponent adjusts, and you're in a neutral position, so you've really not gained anything. Maybe you've gotten out of that grip that you felt uncomfortable with, but you weren't typically able to finish the attack or the re-attack. Another position or another possibility is when I have the head and arm position, instead of trying to spin all the way behind, in other words, getting my weight back here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my knee right in his armpit. So from here, I want to come around to this position deep. I'm going to try to put my knee basically right in his ear here. In the instructional where I go over riding, I'm going to go over a whole series from this position here, because there's a lot you can do. If Kobe grabs here, no problem. This is a little preview. There's a lot of things you can do from this position. And it's a very safe position once you've mastered it and don't have fear of getting a Peterson roll on you. But the part I want to go over right now is basically the notion of tugging forward, and as I do, I'm going to come here very quickly, very deep with this knee. Okay, I'm not going to worry about and talking about grips here or anything like that. Just the notion of getting your knee deep in your opponent's underarm here, close to his face, and my weight's going forward. My weight isn't back here, else I risk getting rolled one way or the other. As soon as my weight's back in this direction, I'm in trouble. But there's no problem whatsoever as long as my weight is forward here. Again, we're going to go over more of that in a future instructional, but the basic goal is to get in this position. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to tug, always tug forward because his weight is on his hands. I can transition as he's trying to recover his position. Of course, if he's not trying to recover his position, it makes it all the more easy. But as he recovers his position, I have time to spin around before he can reach up and grab me. So I give a tug, and I want to spin here. And I push his head down here. This is deep. And that's all I want to get across for right now. Once more. I'm tugging forward here, tugging, I tug, and then I come here.